When it comes to logo design, type can play a significant part. When considering type for your logo design, one option you have is to use pre-designed typefaces. Today, there are thousands of quality typefaces available in multiple styles you can consider. When developing your logo, it may be possible to find a pre-designed typeface that is perfectly appropriate for your design. Now, it is very common for logos to use pre-designed typefaces to accompany logomark elements or even create a standalone wordmark logo. If you decide to use a pre-designed typeface for your logo design, you will need to consider type carefully to appropriately reflect the values and the qualities of the company, business, or product it needs to represent. And this can be tricky because there are so many typefaces to choose from. For my project, I'm designing a logo for a music festival, which contains both a logomark element and a wordmark element. In a previous video, we looked at the logomark element of my design, where I demonstrated a few methods you can consider to artwork a stamp drawing into a polished vector artwork. Now, you may also have seen me trace my type element in Illustrator, so I could have used this. However, there are times when I design logos where I want to consider other options. For my logo design, I'm going to attempt to customize a pre-designed typeface. So next, I'll need to start looking to find one that is appropriate for my design. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a technique I use to research typefaces for my logo design and edit down my choices in order to select a good example. So let's get into it. So here I am with my design process checklist. Once I have converted any logomark element for my logo design into vector artwork, if I decide not to customize the type and look to use a pre-designed typeface, I can now move into step 2 in phase 3. The second step in phase 3 is using typography, which is optional if you are not customizing your own type for your logo design. In this video, I'm going to focus on task 1, 2, and 3 and look to research typefaces and decide on the right one for my logo design. So for this particular project, I'm designing a logo for a music festival, which I intend to include both a logomark element and a wordmark element. Looking back at my scamp logo designs I did in the previous phase, we can see the style of type I want for my logo design. If you want to take a closer look at my scamps, you can get them in the course folder. So with the course folder open, click into the design process example folder, click into folder 2, design, into folder 1, visual concept, into folder 2, scamps, and click on the Illustrator doc labeled example logo scamps. And you will have the same document I have open here. So for this logo design, I wanted the type to have impact and feel contemporary and appropriate for a dance music festival and balance well with the logo mark. Here I'm thinking of going minimal with a sans serif typeface in all caps, so as not to compete too much with the logo mark. At this point, I should have a good idea of what I want to go for, because I have already put a lot of thought into this earlier in the design process. For my specific logo design, the type is not too complicated, so for my approach, here I think I could use a pre-designed typeface and perhaps look to customize it, because there are some details in the type element design that may not be present in a found typeface. Now, this is a common practice I do sometimes when I'm designing logos. In the past, I have created custom typefaces from scratch for a specific look and feel. But in instances like this, where the type is fairly straightforward, using a pre-designed typeface would work quite well. So once I have a good idea for the look and feel of the type for my logo design, it's then a case of going out, researching and finding a typeface that is perfect for my design. And when it comes to researching for my type, I like to spend a bit of time and be as thorough as possible to find the perfect type for my logo design. When I have a good idea for what style of type I want for my logo design, the first task I undertake is 1. Research typefaces. Now, when researching for typefaces, I always try to find examples which have been carefully designed, offer the full character set, and have extensive typeface families, so there is a range of character weights to explore and consider. Now, you can try using free typefaces, but I always find they only go so far, With free typefaces, it's hard to find complete families, and sometimes free typefaces are incomplete, where some characters or glyphs are missing because after all they are free. Now, it is possible to find some good examples of free typefaces, though that can take time, and time is money. When I'm in search of a typeface, I typically look to buy them on sites I can quickly find them, purchase them, and be confident that they are of high standard. This just takes the hassle out of the whole process. I find the best typefaces are always the ones you pay for, so I'll make that investment in quality to save time. Now, keep in mind there is no right or wrong way here. Whatever works best for your design and situation is what you should go with. So as I research for typefaces, I'll be looking to build typeface collections. Now, when researching typefaces online and looking to purchase a good one, it can be difficult because when looking at typefaces on a website, it is often completely out of context. So what I find helpful is to place a chosen typeface into a collection where I can apply it to a specific wordmark and see it applied in context of my intended design. So initially, I'll take some time to look around and research typefaces for my design. If I see any typefaces I think look good, I'll acquire them and add them to my collection. Once I have found some nice typefaces I think are appropriate for my design, I'll typically buy them and install them so I can include them into my type collection to get a proper look at them in my unique context. And to do this, I use a pre-designed type sheet which I open in Adobe Illustrator. This is a simple document in Illustrator with two artboards where I can apply a collection of typefaces to a wordmark to get a good preview and compare. If you want to take a closer look at this template and use it yourself, you can get access to it in the project folder. So with your project folder open, click into the design folder, into the artwork and design folder, into your new root folder, into the form folder, into the workings folder, into the type research folder, into the collections folder, click on the Illustrator doc labeled template type collection, and you will have the same document I have open here. So here is a document that I have prepared for you which you can easily fill in. If we come up to edit, find and replace, we can type in XXX and replace with the name of our logo. So I'll type in Euphoria, click find and click replace all, and that will update our collection. So on the left we have the type set to caps, and on the right we have the type in lowercase. This is here so you can preview the type should you want to consider both upper or lowercase for your logo design. Now it's just a case of applying new typefaces to these so we can compare, and of course changing the name above for each. So this is my finished collection document where I have found some typefaces I thought were appropriate for my logo design, and here I have added them in. In this collection, I am looking at 12 sans serif typefaces in both upper and lowercase. If you want to take a closer look at my collection, you can get access in the course folder. The course folder comes with my complete logo design solution I will be demonstrating on this course, including all my design example files and documents at each step to aid your learning experience. The folder also comes with design resources, such as a logo design process checklist, process documents and templates, a project folder structure, color sample charts, and a logo proposal document example, all of which you can not only learn from, but use in your own design process. To get the full learning experience and use the resources to help develop your own logo project, I recommend you get the course folder. Download link with instructions is in the description. With the course folder open, click into the design process example folder, into the design folder, into the artwork and design folder, into the root one folder, into the form folder, into the workings folder, into the typeface research folder, into the collections folder, and click on the Illustrator doc labeled example type collection, and you will have the same document I have open here. So where did I research these typefaces? Well, a really good resource I find helpful for finding typefaces for my logo design is Design Cuts. Design Cuts offers a wide range of design and creative assets for your projects, and one of their particularly strong offerings is their choice of typefaces, designed and crafted by expert type designers. If you want to take a closer look at the typefaces I have here, you can find links in the PDF course index that goes with this course. Simply click on the resources section. So I'll typically fill out my type collection until I feel I have enough examples to choose from. With my collection complete, I can either keep it on my computer to come back to later, or I can print it out to place onto my project wall and take a good look and examine the typefaces physically in print. With my illustrated doc complete, I'll come up to File, Save As. I'll change the format to PDF. Then I'll navigate into my project folder and into the top folder, Project Wall. I'll click into folder 2, Design, and save the file as Type Collection. This will create an easy document which I can easily print out or refer back to later. Now, I love printing out my found typefaces and placing them onto my project wall. However, if I can't print them out, we can examine the type on screen. In this video, I'm demonstrating the typefaces I have chosen for my specific logo design. Now, you are welcome to follow along with my example, but if you're following along with this course and using a pre-designed typeface in your design, I would recommend you build your own typeface collection. So if you're following along with your own design idea, take a pause and carry out your process. Before moving on, undertake the same process I have just demonstrated to research your own typefaces. Once you have some typefaces you like and want to use, let's continue. So looking at my collections here, even though they are all minimal sans serif typefaces, there are some minor differences. Normally, when I look at my found typefaces like this, I will typically find some pros and cons in some of them, and then if I'm lucky, I may find some examples that are really good and close to what I want. So for my design, I'm looking for a really minimal typeface with not a lot of flair to it. So in this instance, there are a few examples here that are really standing out to me. In this instance, I'm really liking Montreux Grotesque because it looks exactly what I'm looking for in both upper and lowercase. Also, I'm really liking Aventa Geometric. I particularly like how this looks in lowercase as well, and Kiona looks good. Now, Montreux Classic and Zwiz stand out to me, but looking more closely at some of the characteristics, I'm not liking the uppercase R compared to some of the others. The leg curves out, and for my design, I want something that is more straight and geometric. Eon looks good, Neo Hans Kendrick looks good, and the last one that looks good is Arche Geometric Sans. So this is the first step in a method I use to research typefaces for my logo design. As I said earlier, I like to spend some time on this and do a thorough job because a typeface for a logo design needs to be perfect. In this instance, I have some nice examples, but as I start to look more closely, I'm looking for some very particular characteristics which may rule some of them out. Typically, when I undertake my initial step and create typeface collections, I will always find at least a few examples I like. But the next question is always, which one should I go for? So once I have a good typeface collection, I'll undertake the next task. 3. Edit, examine, and decide. Now to get real decisive about a typeface, edit down my selection and finally decide on the right typeface, I like to place my edited choices onto another sheet and print them out large and examine them further. This enables me to further examine typeface examples to make better informed choices to ensure I choose the correct typeface for my design. So here I have taken the 6 examples that stood out to me and placed them on a separate page where I can really focus on the details here. Now I have printed this in large format here, but we could also study this on screen. So after looking at my 6 examples in detail, for me personally, there is one that really stands out. Now, these are all nice minimal geometric sans serif typefaces, which are similar. However, for me, I think Aventa Geometric is going to work perfectly for my logo design. It has just the right character weight, and I particularly like the letter R and P in uppercase, as it fits best with my design. These letter forms have slightly wider counters, the space inside the letters here, compared to Montreux, Eon, and Arche. Eon is really nice, but again, the counter compared to Aventa is smaller, and I'm looking for a bit more weight. Kiona is also nice, but on this occasion I like the leg stroke on the letter R on Aventa compared to Kiona. On Kiona it's just a little too tucked in. Also, I like the character width on the U on Aventa compared to Kiona. It's a bit narrow here. Neo Hans Kendrick is also nice, but here the crossbar on the A is just a little too low. Now, not only does Aventa reflect my initial sketch design, but it embodies all the qualities I feel are appropriate for my design. It's a sans serif typeface, it's minimal and has a nice geometric style. So this is how I research and decide on a typeface to use for my logo design if I'm not making a custom typeface. Sometimes when choosing a pre-designed typeface, it can come down to some really small details, and it takes having to focus and compare like this to make the decision. Creating typeface collections and printing them off is not only good for yourself, but it is also great to print out and share with others if you are working with a larger design team. This always works really well for me, and it always helps me get really decisive about my type for my design. So once I have settled on a typeface, it's now time to incorporate it into my logo to complete the design. Now looking back on my Scamp designs, we can see that on my type I have some very particular characteristics I want to achieve. On some of the letter forms, I want to remove some of the strokes to get a more minimal and bespoke appearance. For my logo approach, I'm going to use Aventa Geometric, which I think is going to work perfectly. But to reflect on my initial logo design and make it a little more bespoke, I'm going to look to make some very minor customizations. Now, if you're following along, you may or may not want to customize your type. Now, you don't have to, but if you do decide and are curious how to, we can now undertake the last task in step 2 in phase 3. In the next video, I'm going to demonstrate how we can work with type in Illustrator and make some simple modifications to a pre-designed typeface to customize and perfectly match our intended design. So see you in the next video.